Hey y'all, welcome back to the Foxfire Dispatch, where we bring Southern politics down to earth and center the voices fighting for a better future in our communities. I'm Liz Purvis, and today we are honored to be joined by a Democratic candidate running in North Carolina's 5th Congressional District primary to take on Republican incumbent Virginia Foxx. He is a community organizer, a proud Aggie, and one of the youngest people stepping up to challenge entrenched power in our state. Not just to survive, but to build something that is better and working for all of us. We're going to talk about why he's running, how he sees the state of this district and the country, and what real representation looks like for working people. So grab your coffee or your water or your stress munchies and settle in. This is the Foxfire Dispatch. Thank you, Kyah, so much for coming to join us in the Foxfire Dispatch today. I would love to catch our listeners up a little bit on your story. Let's talk about your run for CD5, what the district looks like now, because it seems like it's gerrymandered all to hell, and who your Republican opponent would be.
So we're going against Virginia Foxx, 20-year incumbent, 82 years old. When they gerrymandered this district, I don't think they realized they were going to put such a strong force of young people in this district. But now we have over 100,000 students across, all the various community colleges and universities like A&T and UNC Greensboro make up 31,000 students. That's just those. And then we have App State 2.5 hours away that throws another 30,000 on top of that. And then all the various colleges, it's a whole bunch. It does have 10 counties, which is one of the most in the country. And it takes 90% of Greensboro. So the whole western side of Greensboro is actually taken into District 6. So, it just cuts out a slice of them for whatever reason. Probably racist, but whatever reason. And then, most of the rest of the district is pretty rural, mountainous. We have 10 of them, like I said. Alexander, Allegheny, Caldwell, Guilford, Rockingham, Surrey, Stokes, and Watauga and Wilkes. So 8 out of 10 of those are Appalachian designated. So they have lower life expectancy and everything. So that's the lay of the land.
Cool. So really stretched out district, but a lot of students to mobilize, particularly obviously for Democrats. So that's really exciting. So it sounds like student organizing is going to be part of your strategy to potentially winning this primary. I know there was a walk to the polls that happened at A&T. I think this past week. Yeah, tell me about that.
So basically, our state board of elections, because they do whatever MAGA dad says, they are trying to voter suppress us. And they know that with UNCG and and A&T, those are 2 strongholds of just purely majority Democratic voters and women. The makeup of UNCG is like 61% non-white. A&T is a historically black college. That means if most of those kids are non-white, this is just blatantly youth and black and brown voter suppression. They made sure, though, that they got their voices heard. We had a bunch of A&T students pull up to the State Board of Elections, let them know. And they basically said, if you don't get out of here, we're going to call cops. And still took away our polling spots. And not only that, they went and took away Sundays, because you used to be able to vote on Sundays. Souls to the polls was pretty powerful. And because they hate you, they don't want your voice to be heard. They think power is more important than representation. They took away souls to the polls. And so student organizers got out there and got a whole bunch of students and other people from the community organizations. We made sure, this is going to be a nice story going into your reelection, guys. We're going to get our government back for us. And it doesn't matter what kind of tactics they pull off.
Yeah, those Board of Elections meetings really seem to not listen to the constituents who did make time to get to Raleigh to make their voices heard about that. I know Western Carolina was also affected. by the like closing the polling locations at schools and like did a 1.7 mile walk to the polls this week too. Which I think is really cool that students are doing that to like draw attention to these races. Like I that attention is great and needed and wanted, but like it shouldn't have to be that way.
You're just exactly right. It shouldn't have to be this way. We have adults that don't know how to be adults. Like they don't know how to make the correct moral decisions in seemingly any given situation. It's always about some kind of money or power.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'm guessing that that takes us a little bit into, like, what inspired you to run. It sounds like seeing adults really failing to be the adults in the room has something to do with that.
Um, it was a multitude of things, but I would say the first things that like really sparked the question, like, would I run for Congress? Um, Trump won. Kamala lost. My heart was broken. I'm sitting there mad, sad, all the things. I'm on TikTok, being annoyed and just like, complaining, looking through comments, liking them up because I feel the same way. Um, but then I got to thinking, if he can go up to the highest office in the land, become president of the United States, the most powerful office in the entire world, and he can have all these allegations. He's a rapist, he's a 34 count felon, everything in the book. You couldn't craft a worse candidate for office of the United States, or for the presidency at least. And he did it. And he did it and twice. And so I was like, you know what? Obviously, our elected officials can't keep out what essentially is a bum. Like he's someone that like the epitome of should never touch or hold any sort of power. Just be at home, go do what you want, dude. It just don't affect us. And I'm like, I could do that. I could represent a whole lot less people, with a more powerful message and actually make sense. I could actually draft, good legislation. Learning that like most of these guys don't actually even write the stuff that they're putting up. They get it from some lobbyist. They get it from this staffer. They literally just work off talking points that people they hire give to them. So they don't even represent you. I'm like, I know I could actually do the job, and set a new standard of leadership. How many leaders do you look up to in this world now? Like, there's probably only a handful that you could probably even think of. You would consider a leader, like someone you look up to, has the right compass on when they're walking their path, when they're talking about issues that people have going on. I'm like, where are our MLKs and Malcolm X and all these other like historic figures? Where are they right now? Like, where are our modern day versions? You don't see them. Like, why can't I come and help fill this void? There's a vacuum here. We need people that have the right frame of mind, looking towards human progress, not personal success. And all these guys have the complete wrong impression about what public service was supposed to be. And I was like, I could do that better. I'm tired of letting other people do it for me. What happens if I don't step into this race? Who's going to try to do it for me? Like, I'm not exactly confident in them. So I could do it myself.
Yeah.
And what started as a joke is now a full-fledged campaign.
Yeah, there are two things that are coming up for me based on what you said. One is like, Lord grant me the confidence of a mediocre white man, like when it comes to Trump and his beyond mediocrity, negative, bad, monster shit, felon, rapist, etc. But like just God and has risen to power on that mediocrity and failure, abject failure. Um, the other thing flew right out of my head because it's almost 9 p.m. And I am on the older side of young Democrat, and this is almost my bedtime. But I am sure that it'll come to me here in a few minutes. What are the issues that like you've been hearing on the ground as you talk to voters and like do get out the vote work?
So one of the big issues I've been hearing from, especially a lot of students, like I told you, there was a lot of diversity on these campuses and just around Greensboro, third largest city. ICE and all the issues surrounding them, like they're trying in every way to disrupt, distract, and hurt our community so that it distracts us from the Epstein files and other huge things that they're destroying, or just doing that doesn't benefit us as Americans. Number two is healthcare. Like, I was just talking with a lady yesterday, one of my next door neighbors, and she was saying she has a healthcare plan that is supposed to be really good, but because she and her friends, well, she has friends that actually are cancer patients, and they still haven't even gotten to their um, the first step in their cancer treatment because their healthcare insurance is actually trying to step in and block it. Like, they're trying to argue against whatever they're saying they need. And so we have a healthcare system that doesn't work for normal people. We're talking about someone that's getting blocked from their cancer treatment. We have regular older folk that need certain things, and our insurance companies do not have our best interests at heart. They are meant to, profit, 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 and profit more. And if their whole thing is growth, well, people have to die in order for, that growth to be attained. And people feel that, and they don't like it. They want something new, something better. And then the last things I've been hearing is affordable housing. Given that Greensboro is the third largest city, and there's places like Boone that are trying to expand. We're getting more and more students every year. Housing is becoming what is essentially a luxury good instead of something that we should have and should work towards making sure it's accessible for everybody, especially if you want to keep promoting more students to come. Like, we have the largest HBCU in the country. We are getting more and more admissions every year, yet tuition's going up and the availability of housing is going down. We're not making sure that our people around here are able to afford the places they've grown up in. And they want to keep adding innovation, but they're not going to keep adding opportunity. They're allowing people to come in here and extract. Our North Carolina State Assembly is trying to get the corporate tax rate down to 0%. And so as they keep bringing in corporations, the corporations keep extracting and giving back nothing. Like, this tax break to zero as a state isn't helping anyone except the corporations. They're not mandated to do fundraisers or give backs or anything for the community. They're literally here just to get money and to get as much of it, in a short amount of time. And so that's the things that I've been hearing the most across the district.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I think one of the problems that I have with the idea of the corporate tax rate being 0% is that, like, these corporations put more pressure on our systems, and then we defray those costs to taxpayers. So, like, if there's a Duke Energy plant in your county and they've gotten some tax breaks to use the water system in your county, then it's not like the cost to use that water system for that giant entity went away. It gets defrayed on individual citizens whose houses and apartments and small businesses even, like, aren't using water to the quality and the quantity that this big corporation. Yeah. Anyway, that I totally see that as like an important policy area. I just want to go back to something that you had said earlier about, like, who do we look up to? When I think about who I look up to in the, like, political space more than like the activism space generally, I'm thinking about like AOC, I'm thinking about Ilhan Omar, and like her coming about to punch that guy that like came at her the other day. I'm thinking about Ayanna Presley and like her poison knowledge. I'm thinking about Pete Buttigieg and like him being able to spar with the folks on Fox News in like a really compelling way. Are there any folks that you're looking up to or seeing like positively in Congress that you're like, if there, I'd partner with those folks?
I would definitely say the exact same people you mentioned. If we're talking strictly political, it would definitely be like Ayanna Presley, and uh, I would say even like Jasmine Crockett, like how she just has a fire and she can like analyze and dissect these bad faith actors, whoever they are, whether it's a corporate lobbyist or what have you. Um, she knows how to eviscerate people. Bringing like that culture to the table, like, when you talk about like bringing that kind of fire, and I want to bring that, like, as a young person. Well, we're very angry people too. I want to partner with more people that are bringing that fire. I think AOC lays it out, pretty well. Like I said, Jasmine Crockett, I think she does it really well. But we need more of it. Those are the type of people. If I was to say activists, I would say probably just Hassan Piker, maybe someone. I don't know, honestly. I honestly don't know. In the activist spaces, there's not a lot of big unifying voices in certain spaces or hyper political spaces. If you're not like some leftist, likely you might not know about Hassan Piker, unless you happen to be an extremist on the other side. Like you would have to be in those kind of spaces. I don't think anyone represents that, you know, just voice of the people. Every single person kind of like agrees with it. At least, you know, if you're just not blatantly racist, probably agree with it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I do think Hassan is, like, a really good example of somebody who's, like, a speaker activist on the left, I think, on the, like, strong left of center, who does have a large voice, but yeah, I would agree with you that, like, from what I know, like, he's got a huge following, but it's a really it's like it's if there's, like, a U, it's, like, the people on both sides of the U and not, like, the big crux of the people that are in the middle. But yeah, the work that he's been doing, particularly to lift up what has happened in Minnesota, like really, really worthwhile and cool. Um, so we talked about housing affordability. We've talked some about how working families, working students stretch real thin right now. Um, what does economic security for folks like? How would you fight for that in Congress? What does that look like to you?
in terms of economic security, um, what that looks like to me is just people being able to, you know, have money left over at the end of the month for any emergency, at least 1,000. If we can get to that point, we're uplifting at least the life expectancy by 1%. It'll at least go up 1 year because that's so many more people that won't be stressed, which is one of the leading causes of death. Stress is a killer. And they don't associate poverty with stress. They don't associate stress with poverty. And they're hand in hand. The most impoverished people in our world are the ones that are most stressed because everything is important. Every single thing. Your phone breaks, it might be the end of the world. Right? Your car breakdown, you can't make it to your job anymore. And you lose it. And our world and our jobs are often not working for us. I think when we get the affordable housing that we deserve, when we start putting more money into social programs, like it costs, I think 10 billion less than what they're trying to add to the ICE budget. What they're trying to add, they're trying to make the ICE budget $37 billion, and we could end homelessness for the large majority with $20 billion. That includes all the extra programs, mental health, everything, and we don't put our resources towards that because in the long run, that is fiscally responsible. We could be the fiscally responsible ones because we put uh, more money in now and then less money in later because you still have to deal with the homeless crisis. You still got to deal with all these different crises in terms of your economics and your paycheck, your wallet. You still got to deal with these things somehow, some way down the line. And they're so short-sighted and narrow. Affordable housing, getting rid of all of these insurance companies by just having a single payer healthcare system and then that extra tax that you get because you have to still pay into Medicaid, you still got to pay into Medicare, you still got to pay into all that. As every person in the country got to pay into that. So if we just made it a single payer healthcare, that eliminates so much. The elderly and retired folks, they're not going to pay as much for their prescriptions. We're going to have preventative healthcare, which then stops you from being sick to begin with. You need less prescriptions. You have more of our world will be human-centered. And the more human-centered it is, the more efficient it became, right? If you think of any approach that is more human-centered, it is a more efficient thing. Because at the end of the day, who are we making these things for? It's for humans. So we have to start putting into our politics the human aspect across the board because that will save money. Like just one random example, we can in many different parts of the country, there are certain spaces that have huge pockets of human activity. We walk. Let's say like Hall of Fame walk, all the stars. If we made the sidewalks because there's technology for this now. Energy generating sidewalks. We could save so much money. You can start just powering parts of the city without having to take it from some coal company. We power ourselves by living and breathing in the environment. Then we therefore have to do less to maintain that standard. You have more money to go towards other programs. Every step you step over here helps give back to this group or that group. Like there's so many different ways we could try stuff, but we don't try anything.
Yeah, I'd
So
say Japan was maybe where I had seen that there were the sidewalks that have the like do the energy recycling kind of thing. That is really interesting. The other thing that like I feel like you make such a good point around homelessness and policy priorities, right? Like we have the money to fix these big problems. It is a matter of priorities and where we are putting that money that we are not. The other thing I think about with this, and part of this is because I'm working on my speech for our precinct organizing meeting that we'll do in my capacity with the Granville County Democrats, and talking about kids as the most marginalized group. Like, who's homeless? It's mostly teens. Like, it's mostly kids being kicked out of their homes or aging out of foster care and still basically being a kid, you know? And I just think about, like, don't we don't we want there to be a soft place to land? Don't we want there to be, like, social systems that people aren't just, like, thrown out into the cold when they're 17 or 18 or, God forbid, younger than that? Like, it just seems to me like you said, the human-centered, the ethical thing would be that, like, yeah, there is a government system that deals with this because maybe your only living relative is working poor actually and like can't put another mouth to feed in the house or doesn't have a spare bedroom for somebody to crash it. You know, there's like all sorts of reasons that people who are just barely kids get stuck in a cycle of homelessness that like it has been on my heart like why we can't figure out policy solutions to that.
I would say, just to add to that, like the thing is that if Republicans were honest, I mean, if Democrats weren't so, corrupt all the time, if Republicans were honest about being pro-life, they would just say, I'm pro-fetus. They would say, I'm pro 9 months of pregnancy. And that's it. Instead of saying they're pro-life. Because when we talk about social programs, the whole point is to make sure that every person has a dignified life. That's not a crazy ask when you have the most money out of any country, yet you're like basically one of the worst offenders in terms of human rights abuses. Like we can just starve however many people every single year and take away their food stamps after they've been on it for so long. And 40% of them are children. You just take them away at any point. Now you can just on any given day just vote against food being a human right with another country like Israel, and no one bats an eye. Like that's just normal, and that's not normal. If other countries were doing crazy stuff like this, we'd be looking at them sideways. But for some reason, we allow it in this country. I want us to go back to a relatively normal politics. Like we should be arguing whether or not we should be building bridges or adding like a new like train system in general, like a whole train system on this side of the hemisphere. Like we should be arguing about actual policy. Instead, we argue like, should trans people exist? It's like you saying they don't and then putting words on a paper that says, yeah, you can't exist in all your ID. They're not going to just disappear. Like these are humans and we're trying to always legislate humans of what they can be versus what opportunities they can have. And I think that's just so crazy. So bringing us back to normal policy and conversation that doesn't center around whether or not other people can have rights as other people or exist like everyone else. I think that would bring us a long way.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, growing up, my dad liked to say that this is the greatest country on earth. And the older I get, the more that really I feel a questioning of that, but I also feel like, okay, if I take you at your premise that this is the greatest country in the world, then why ever do we not have a supportive housing infrastructure that is affordable or a way to get people out of a cycle of homelessness and into housing security and jobs? Like, surely this so-called great country could figure out the solutions that are people focused, that help it, all the constituents and people that are here. Um, that is kind of taking me to my next question. So voters obviously seeing this shit pretty disillusioned with politics. How are you handling and I hear in our conversation like that disillusionment also being something that has encouraged you to run, right? Like I'm not seeing people who are standing up and meeting the moment. Um, so how do you handle conversations with people come to you and say like, "Well, why are you in it at all?" You know?
So you haven't had a lot of conversations like that, only because I think in the most realistic nature, how we could describe what my campaign is, it's like a curveball. How many people could have ever guessed that I, at 24 years old, not even technically eligible today, if I was to be sworn in, um, to run against an 82-year-old who is 3 times my age, um, and then I also like have enough of a message that is actually like built on what lived experiences we're all experiencing. Um, like I'm going through it too. My family's going through it too. I'm not just like some other retiree. I'm actively living it. And so when people hear that I'm trying to like ask them like, when to early vote, and initially they may be thrown off and they're like, no, I'm not even political. I'm not trying to vote, all that kind of stuff. As soon as I mention like I'm a candidate, they're like, hold on. Wait, what? Okay. I'll
Uh-huh.
vote for you. And so like that exact reaction, like that was almost a verbatim what I experienced like 2 days ago at a Home Depot of all places. I just randomly stopped the guys. And it's just like we can mobilize people if we actually put in candidates people want to believe in. The reason they don't feel like their vote matters is because oftentimes you just got another just dude. He's just like, well, I'm a Democrat or I'm a Republican. And then they say the things that they usually say, but they don't do anything different than they usually do. And people are not trying to see that no more. Like they want people, they not only like obviously what I look like to them and what I am as a candidate is very different, but it's like the way I'm speaking about it. It's like you can't speak in the ways of lived experience unless you've literally been there. Like I like to put names to faces. I like to talk about how like my friends were going through it. My family, 99% of them will be impacted by pretty much any policy I can put out if it has to do with their wallet because they're not making enough for me to make bad decisions. It's like I can put this into perspective. I was mad that I had to run as a Democrat because I'm like, they're in Congress, the position I'm holding right now, they're piss poor. I'm just watched an interview with Hakeem Jeffries, and he's just so attached to the hip with his APAC donations. He's so attached to the hip with his corporate donations. You can't even call out, saying like ICE, you should abolish it. That's the majority of the country's position right now. And you can't just make the right decision. We don't need that organization. It's not doing anything for us. You're talking about how terrible it is, but somehow you can't talk about what solutions we can have for it. Oh, we should give them less money. They was doing this before they added more money. It just got worse. So you add less, it's just less troops. It's less headlines. There's still going to be headlines. People are going to still be hurt. You're still going to have deportations illegally, taking them to places they've never existed in, deporting Americans, stealing people and kidnapping them. Like they can't speak for the Americans because they don't even have the Americans' interests at heart. It has to be a word salad to do to basically push a different agenda. Right now, we should all be rallying against MAGA and this fascist state at every turn in our legislature. Yet we go and collab with them whenever it's super, super, super conveniently politically perfect. You need the Republicans for this money to Israel again? Whatever, throw it at them. Oh, Americans need health care? I don't know. We're going to have to negotiate that for the next 8 months. And we might come back to you with no plan, but hold on. We're coming with it. And it's just like turn after turn after turn, we're being disappointed. And I'm done being disappointed. So hopefully people can understand that I'm on your side with this. And we keep changing minds. We keep getting out people that don't want to vote to come and support a campaign that was literally made for you.
Yeah, and I think when you speak like power into messages about like abolish ICE and abolish ICE, this is the compromise position, right? Like the further to the left position is I would like to see them tried at The Hague
Prosecuted.
and Nuremberg and like a public televised prosecution. So like
Right.
abolish the institution. We are coming to the table with like giving
that's
something.
exactly what you're saying. This is not like this is hard to even push them to the barely centrist position. Like this is barely centrist because it's almost split. It's like 58% or something want this thing abolished. And then there's a whole other swath of people, a smaller percentage that want us to prosecute them, which we absolutely should. But it's like we can barely get him to talk about the centrist position. And it's like as close to MAGA as possible is how our highest leaderships in the Democratic Party operate. And that's what's made me feel like I wish I could be an independent and I'd win. I wish I could be in a different party and I'd win. But that's not, that's not the lay of the land we're working with. So right now, unfortunately, since all the voters are Democrat, right now, we're going to work with what we got. And we're going to get people to stop looking at that D and start looking at that K. My name's Kyah Creekmore for Congress. We represent you, the people. We, the people.
Very cool. Yeah, if you are going to be elected to Congress, would you support something like ranked choice voting to help promote like a strengthening of a multi-party system?
Oh yeah. If you look on my website, I do have a proposal for like reforming our whole political voting system as a whole. It's called the People's Elections Act. Goodness gracious. It's been a long day. But it dives into multiple different parts. Like I even wanted our elections to be publicly funded. Like for each level of government, we would have like $25 pool of money, $25 per level of government. And if you wanted to spend all that money on just one person, cool. But this would incentivize that each person has a direct stake. Like they can actually support. Right? It's like, why didn't you use your money? I mean, it's free to just
to allocate that funding, and
right?
you're opting out if you're like, no, I'm not gonna. But it's like you could make your voice. Yeah, and I agree with you. Like especially, God hope we overturn Citizens United, right? But especially given that is currently the law of the land, you would think that we could also put money in the hands of the people and give the people the power to vote with the dollar.
No, literally. Put it right back into the hands of the people. Of course, we want to overturn Citizens United. Of course, we want to, limit congressional stock trading to ban it completely. But I'm saying in terms of like leveling the playing field, like there is so much we could do with this country if we had proper representation. Now, obviously, it doesn't fix everything, but like even something as little as just like public financing, we can start changing the incentive to go towards huge donors. So many more people will be less likely to convert into a corporate centrist Democrat, and they'll be more likely to have to continue to be supported by their people in their district.
Yeah,
you will actually have the opportunity to get as many people to publicly finance you to reach that $1 million threshold, and then run you a great campaign with $1 million. If you can reach $1 million of publicly finance funds, because you have that many people that believe in your message, you're doing a phenomenal job. And you can do that in pretty much any district in the country. You could probably have enough people to get to $1 million cap if you have a strong enough message, if you're running a great a tight-knit campaign, if you're actually putting in the work like you should be, $1 million should take you really far. It's just up to the candidate at that point. Normal people can start running for office. Getting rid of the egregious filing fees. It costs like $10,000 in Florida. Like, just to get on the ballot. I was thinking 1,740 was outrageous. Then I'm hearing Georgia's $5K. What? Just to get on the ballot. Then we're talking about like Vote Builder or whatever tools for Democrats to use. It's like $400 a month. Using the Vote Builder is like, $5K. I was hearing some crazy numbers.
It really depends by state for Vote Builder, because the state parties do decide. Like, it's a big way that the state parties raise money on the backs of candidates, which I have very complicated feelings about. We're lucky here in North Carolina that the state Democrats have said we're not charging all Democrats, regardless of race. You get access to this database for free, and no party's perfect, right? But I'm super glad that they haven't made that decision this year.
Yeah, at least our state has been doing a lot better than I've seen other Democratic or states Democrat parties do with their candidates. It seems like I am fortunate to have a pretty good Democrat party. And I think locally for our Democratic Party, they do excite me because while they're not perfect, they do so much better than our federal office. Like, I feel like the people that are on the local level do care about their communities, and they want to make it better, and they actually try to make it better, and they don't have so many influences outside to really change that. And that makes this fight so much more easy. Knowing that I have so many people that will back what I'm saying at any given point right here in my district. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, and I mean, I think I'd have to credit the Gen Z leaders that we have here across North Carolina and the state and the county parties, the millennials that are involved too. I feel like I've seen a real shift in the past 3 years towards a party that is more active and nimble and more interested in the things that matter to working people and students and young folks, because we've been there, we are there. Folks in our cohort can't imagine being able to save for a mortgage, let alone pay off their car, it's anyway. So we can I think the generational stuff is huge and worth talking about. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think you're a member of Gen Z. How do your generation's priorities differ from those who are incumbents and old and maybe have held power for decades?
Well, when we talk about what Gen Z is going through, I like to even say that Gen Z right now, we are the epitome of the working class that should be taken care of. And whatever their issues are, it's probably 2 times worse than whatever people are going through that are already established or 35, right? Because they've had time before the inflation shot. They had time before the crash hit in the Great Depression, during Obama's term. They had time to kind of get their things together. Not every family made it out of that, but it's Gen Z's coming into it right after COVID. We're coming into it with all these school shootings. We're coming into it with our apartments cost $1,300 and our minimum wage is still $7.25.
Mhm.
We're talking about we're walking into the worst economic situation somehow nothing going on in a time of relative peace. The country is losing jobs, seemingly monthly, having the worst jobs record since 2009, I think in January. So our country is not here working for many working people, but especially people just leaving their parents' house, just getting out of college. Most of these former students, graduates, are not getting jobs for 6 months plus. So you're telling me people that have just gotten degrees have degrees you can't even use in a
Yeah.
job market that doesn't exist.
Yeah, and, like, so I'm in my mid-30s. Growing up, like, I was definitely told, if you get a bachelor's degree, that's what you need to, like, mostly get a job. If you get a master's, you're gonna be good. The lordy child, that is not the case.
That
Like, that is
it's almost worthless.
it, I talked with Hannah Preston a couple months ago from Influence NC because I know, she lives in the Triangle area. And like when I was a grad student at NC State, my first semester made $12,000 a year. My rent was $693 a month for a one-bedroom apartment. I could actually afford it. I did need to work a second job. I didn't spend much money on groceries, but it was possible. It was actually possible. The minimum to live in something in Raleigh now is double that, at least,
Yeah, literally.
And like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so there's just no, you can't be an early adult and be a barista, wait tables, work a gig job as you find something that you're more passionate about or qualified to do, because there's just not enough money from service work in an underpaying economy the way we have in North Carolina.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I can actually say like my rent not that long ago was I think like 670, and it was nice. I mean, I still had to work a second job or a first job, but way more hours than I'd like to take care of that. But when we talk about even like other problems Gen Z has, when we're talking about how they get these degrees and they graduate, we're walking out of that with enormous amounts of debt. Like I was saying earlier, we have a higher tuition rate every single year,
Mm-hmm.
less houses. So the scarcity goes up, our tuition goes up, that- and then our rent goes up.
That meal plan
All of
is
those are going
required
up.
for a couple of years. Yeah.
The meal plan is required, and it's another 3,000. And most people don't even like the food. We're talking about everything gets worse for us students each year, and we're supposed to be grateful because we're not in mass war or genocide currently in our own country. Now, I just don't think that makes any sense. And every time we talk about a new subject, we have like 3 more issues we need to talk about because it's so compounding.
Well, like, what I'm hearing from you is that, like, hey, the American dream is dead for my generation. Like, we don't believe you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps. It has to be such a combination of dumb luck and
And
privilege,
yes,
much of it white privilege, right? Like, to have a chance at lifting yourself, have at class mobility, and then they take away you overturn Dobbs and we lose some class mobility as women or folks who can get people pregnant. Like, it's not even just about the women, right? Like, I I was listening to Obama on Brian Tyler Cohen's show recently, and he was talking about how people like would need to be able to believe in an American dream. And I really liked so much that he said, and I really loved listening to him talk. But like, I could also hear the disconnect even of like, you are so rich, you are so above us in class now that like you don't see how much the working folks like don't have a path to that American dream anymore.
yeah. And it's just so sad that literally like 95% of the people that represent us in any given um stage of government, whether it's local in your city elections, whether it's the mayor, the Congress people, or president. Almost all of them are retired and older. Almost all of them have businesses. Like I was saying with the city council elections, I was looking through a slate of candidates for our city council elections, and I was so like struck by the fact that there was so many either millionaires or like business executives or corporate um people that came from like corporate jobs. It was like just like you got it there. You're the top of the food chain in terms of like economic success. And so when I'm looking at what problems many parts of certain areas of the city or certain areas in certain counties are experiencing, and then I look at who is running them in their local elections, when I look at who's running them at all in their government, It's like people that would never understand what you're going through, have never had to go through what you're going through. Maybe they have extremely successful family lineage. Like I don't have a successful family lineage seemingly at all. I haven't met anyone that, like I said, most of them, if not all of them, would be affected in some way, like majorly. Like this would change, their life essentially. Like if we were to start taxing the rich and then taxing my mother, she would have a lot less time working overtime for her job, and I could talk to her more often and hang out with her. Compared to right now, she works sometimes week after week and with no days off. That's my mother. Why is she doing that still? But most people don't have to experience this.
Mm-hmm.
And me stepping up to do something like this, especially not having the connections, not having that background, a family safety net, if you will. A lot of people have been reaching out saying like I've been inspiring them, like they're 20 years old, 21 years old. I want to do what you do one day. How do I get started? And I'm like, look, brother, just learn, ask questions about absolutely everything. Anything that happens in your life, you don't got a good answer. Well, then ask questions until you have no more questions to ask. Every time you get a new answer, if something in that answer makes you question, ask another question until you learn how these systems work, until you learn how life really is, until your lived experience's power matches your intellectual power and systems knowledge. That's the kind of message I'm trying to give them. Like your lived experience might be rough, but your intellectual knowledge better match that strength. So we're starting to really raise a new generation of leadership. And I'm so glad I get to help lead the way. Like that was literally my whole goal, a youth movement. Like I think that would be pretty awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Start seeing these numbers skyrocket. We need our youth outside. That's how all these movements start making real noise.
Yeah, I think of like Maxwell Frost running for Congress and doing Uber at the same time to like support his campaign and support his work and like coming in to Congress as a real working class person. I also hear in like this conversation with you like a willingness to like to focus on the policy and like work with people regardless of it. I'm curious, like, so Kate Barr, who's running as a Republican in the 14th, has this idea about well, it's the Patriotic Millionaire's idea about not taxing the first $100,000 in a household. Like, would that kind of and then afterwards taxing people more and it going up based on 100,000,
So
250,000, etc. But your first 100,000
I
in
kind of
income,
like that.
I was curious, like what
I
you would think because I am also interested in that
so
policy.
that sounds actually like phenomenal. I'm so glad you're bringing it up. Because when we're talking about, I was watching a video because I like watching video essays and like really studying certain topics. One of them was like our working class has shifted, where traditionally people think like millionaires are like, oh my God, they're making so much money. You should never have to complain. I mean, yes, give or take. But when we talk about how we've been taught growing up, and so there's a lot of people that make a lot more than $100,000 that are still living check to check,
Mhm.
and we don't
That is
classify
true.
them as working class.
Mhm.
And therefore, when we talk about what is poverty wages, right now, currently, we should be making, if our wages kept up with inflation, we should be making around $70,000 minimum. But instead, we classify poverty at 35. That doesn't make sense. If just to live life is 70, then these people should basically be homeless. And somehow my mom made it through these $35,000 a year. And many other people are in that same boat.
But making
We
it
have to
through
be looking
paycheck
at
to paycheck, or how am I
paycheck to
gonna
paycheck.
keep the lights on and do the grocery bill this week, or like I'm staggering all my credit card payments. Like there's all this
Yeah,
calculus you've got to do when you are so
stress.
far under what is truly like a working wage.
And all that to round out to we should have six figures, starting at six figures. That makes a lot of sense because that's really where the middle class, give or take, is starting, like just barely.
It's like you
And it's
couldn't
not at
always
70K.
get a mortgage, but at 100,000 in a household, you're starting to be able to imagine, figure it out, like the home
Yeah, like
ownership.
you could actually want to plan out your life a little bit with 100K. With 60, 70K, you're kind of just moving about life as life comes to you,
Mhm. Maybe
right?
you
Like
don't
you're not
have a
planning it.
$500 for all, 2 of your tires blew and you need to replace them. Like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's the kind of conversations we need to be having. Like, where is our working class actually? And why aren't we treating this as an economic crisis? Like, why is poverty not a national emergency? Why is like school funding not a national emergency?
Mhm.
We pick and choose. Right now we have this immigrant crisis, but immigrants been here. Immigrants pay more into the system than they take out. Immigrants haven't been part of the problem for a very, very, very long time.
Lordy, if folks like
Um,
you and I wanna have access to Social Security, we better hope that
oh,
immigrants continue to pay into that system.
oh, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. So just last question to wrap it up before like a little lightning round, fun round. What's the core message that you want every voter in North Carolina's 5th district to hear as they head to the polls?
If you felt like you've been left out on either Democrat, Republican, or if you're now unaffiliated because you have finally have divested, this campaign is for you. We, as a collective, deserve better. Humans deserve better. And any politician that's not speaking about human, the benefit that humans will gain from the investments that we make, if they're not talking about making sure that our lives are better every single day, that our life expectancy soars, that we start matching those of other developed nations, if they're not talking about making sure that your life is better every single day, you should not be voting for them. I won't tell you who to vote for, but we're making the right things happen.
Well, so we would encourage folks in CD5 to pull that Democratic ballot if you're a Democrat or unaffiliated. Um, and obviously there is a primary. We're talking with Kyah Creekmore, who's running as a Democrat in that race, and really excited about that. Yeah, those patriotic millionaires, they have this whole tax plan, and it's like available on their website. I have not fully read into it, but I'm so glad we got a minute to talk about that because I think that idea of not taxing your first 100,000, that is, it's close to Elizabeth Warren's like millionaires and billionaires taxes that she had talked about in 2020 in a way that I feel like adjusts things that I just think is really cool. Um, okay, you ready for a lightning round before we wrap up?
Sure.
Do you prefer the mountains or the coast?
The coast.
Sweet tea or unsweet
1000%.
tea?
Sweet tea, 1000%.
Biscuits or cornbread?
Cornbread when I make it. I got a special recipe.
Jiffy?
I mean, yes, but that's not the secret
Hey,
ingredient.
I'm not judging. That's what I used to. Door knocking or phone banking?
Door knocking 1000%.
Town halls or doing like small one-on-one meetings?
I would say one-on-ones. I like giving people their time to just I feel like a lot of people don't even get to express themselves and their dissatisfaction, this disappointment, and they get it. I feel like when I start talking to them, they get it out. So it's a little satisfying.
Yeah. Student loan cancellation or tuition-free community college?
Tuition, student loan cancellation. Like no student loans ever again, or just all of them now?
All of them forgiven and a new system.
That one.
Here, here. Um, Staying in with a book or going out with friends?
Going out with friends. I don't get to do it as often anymore.
Fair, you're busy running a campaign. Kendrick Lamar or Bad Bunny?
I would say Bad Bunny. He's more of a vibe, like someone I just listen to in the background. Like,
Okay.
yes, it's more often that I listen.
Okay. Texting or voice memos?
Texting.
And last one, although you already mentioned part of this, banning TikTok or banning stock trading in Congress?
Oh, stock trading easily.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm sorry about the snafu getting set up, but I'm really glad you were able to come on tonight. Can you remind folks how to support your campaign and learn more about your work?
So you can actually find us at, I don't know if this pops, but KyahCreekmore.org, KYAHCREEKMORE.org. You can find us on TikTok, Kyah for Congress, Instagram, Threads. You can find us on pretty much any social media. Feel free to donate to the campaign. We're not funded by billionaires, super PACs, any of that. Just people. And average donation is around $27. So it's literally just regular people trying to chip in and be a part of this movement. They believe in this future, this vision, and I hope you do too.
Very cool. I'm going to do my very best to get your website into the show notes so that people have a good, easy way to link to that and find more information. Thank you again for joining me. I know it's late.
Well, it was wonderful chatting with you.
It was so good to talk with Kyah tonight. If folks are listening, you can learn more about his platform and priorities and how to get involved on his website, KyahCreekmore.org. We will link to that campaign site and voting information in the show notes. This race is going to matter not just about who sits in Congress, but it's also going to matter because we're rebuilding political voice and power in communities that have been left behind and gerrymandered and just left out of the conversation. We are going to be watching and talking about this primary definitely as we keep going on the Foxfire Dispatch. Thank you to everybody who is listening or watching. If this show resonated, help us spread the word by sharing an episode or sending it to somebody who cares about the future of North Carolina. And please subscribe wherever you get your podcast, especially on YouTube. We drop new episodes every other Friday. And you can find us on Instagram, YouTube, and Blue Sky at the Foxfire Dispatch, or on TikTok and Twitter at Foxfire Dispatch. Until next time, stay curious, stay engaged, and keep pushing for the world that you want to live in. Now we'll get in some good trouble. Our music is produced by John Fitz, and the show is written and executive produced by Liz Purvis.